I'm going to read some notes from the inaugural lecture when we opened our Masjid in Oakland on March 23rd in 1980. And every environment, every age produces its needs. That nature has a means to satisfy the hunger and what have you that society has. So society should develop institutions to answer the needs of the individual, the community, and the nation. And I have something from American history called Manifest Destiny. Everybody ever heard of Manifest? Oh, yeah. Manifest Destiny was an idea that the United States should become a two-ocean power, an Anglo-Saxon two-ocean power, which it became. And when they developed that concept, say in the late 1830s or something like that, around that period, they pushed everything aside to fulfill the goals of that. If they had Indians here, they just killed all the Indians, put them on reservations. It was so cold that they developed styles back east for buffalo robes and what have you. So they killed all the buffalo. They had a style already waiting for them back east and in Europe, that everybody that period was wearing buffalo robes. So there was 6 million buffaloes on the plains. The Indian kind of worshipped the buffalo. It used the hides for tents and houses. It used the bones and everything to help build those houses sometimes, and of course wood. Also the buffalo gave him mobility because he ate the buffalo also. So all over the plains of the West was buffalo. So the Indian could fight, he could eat, he could rest, he could do all of those things. America studied them and found that, of course, what gives them their freedom? The buffalo. So can you imagine a diabolical mind so evil? They said, well, we'll just extinct them. And they're almost extinct. When I was younger, when I was very young, they had a few buffalo in national parks, well guarded and protected. Now they've developed bigger and bigger herds of buffalo. But when I was very young, that was coming to the end of the period where they just wiped them out. They brought people out on trains and just slaughtered them. But Manifest Destiny, they glorified the West. Go West, young man. And just think in those days, if you had a case back east, you could go west and do what you want. Because ain't nobody knew where you went, who you was, or nothing. You just went out there, you could change your name, you know what I mean? Buy a farm, do anything you want to do. That's how it was. Okay, so they set everything aside to fulfill their destiny. They called it Manifest Destiny. One thing I want to mention, though, that we are responsible for our own evolution, and we call it cutting the cord. In those days, we say you got to cut the cord, the umbilical cord, with Washington, with Sacramento, that's the state capital back there. So we have to study the best examples to be the best. If you want to study if you want to run fast, you have to study the best records. You got to break their record or try to break their record. And so what if you don't break their record, you get close, you know what I mean? You improve. How tall, how fast, how moral, how courageous, how productive by studying the best productive peoples. Science says that any living organism, in order to survive, it must either adapt to its environment or change its environment. I'll say that again. Any living organism, I mean anything that's alive, from single cell to multicellular, whatever it is, in order to survive, they have to either adapt to their environment, adjust to their environment, or change their environment. Okay. That's just a law of science. We want to go over the 6-point program, but we had a 6-point program just coming out of the joint. And orientation brochures and all of that. And it said something we say here all the time, says declare jihad in Oakland. Jihad against poverty, that's starvation. Ignorance and darkness, of course. And injustice, inequality. We had a statement, don't let nobody turn you around, or don't let nobody turn us around. So there's a statement, I love my family, but they ain't gonna turn me around.
That's right.
No drug, right? You gotta remember, this is 1981, so everything, this is at the end of a great era in Black history. No fame, all these things have just about knocked Black people by the end. Yes. Drugs, fame, fortune. A lot of Black people have had a chance to get over by that time. So this is saying, I love my family, but I ain't gonna let them turn me around. This is what I was just note to myself. We love that no fame, no women. This is people. Our leadership have been turning around for too long. They've been turning around. So we have here elders been turning around. Huey been turning, Huey Newton. Congressmen, mayors. Remember that was in the old days when we just getting made mayors and everything. A lot of Negroes was happy. Educators, everybody was turning around. Keep your manhood. If you have to go to prison, go on to prison. If you have to lose your house, lose your house. Your car, your motorcycle, your boat, whatever it is you got. You know, if you have to lose it, this was the attitude we had then. And we're reviewing this just to remind us how well have we done. Because the title, what is it, focus and goals, focus or something?
Focus on the future.
Focus on the future. It also has to do with goals. Okay, so anyway, then that age we dealt, you know, you're younger, we dealt a lot with habits. So habits was either a liability or an asset. You know, it added to your capital. Either it built you up, we used to call them slave building habits or liberating habits. Your habits, what you do every day, they either liberate you. So now you got to remember, in those days we was really into physical fitness, because that was in movement. When you study how people got diverted, well, when I went to Algeria and I was there with the brothers, they didn't have a physical fitness program. So Sekou Dinka and I, we'd go out to where I lived, and had a basketball court. In Moretti Villa, we used to play basketball almost every day. Of course, you know, basketball, you're going to be in shape playing ball. Especially one-on-one, you know. After a few games, you don't have to do nothing else. Because I used to run on the beach and everything. The physical discipline. And then in the period of South America and other periods, and during this period, was the height of our marathon running and training and running in the hills. And we realized something, that all this stuff that was coming against us, one of the saving forces from the very beginning, when we studied our people, when I went to Algeria, the first thing I told them, y'all ain't gonna have no revolution here. Y'all going down to the Rue de Douche Morag, buying hashish every day, so you ain't gonna have no revolution here. Your habits, that's what y'all do, you know. So you're not gonna have a revolution here, and then, or come back to have one. And I said, as a white woman that I saw, I said, when we had a meeting, I said, this is the first time I've been up here on the second floor. I said, but when I come downstairs where I would hang out, I'd see a white woman up here with a mint julep or something hanging on the balcony. And I don't know what she's doing up here. Only thing I can see is that she's a white woman. Say habits. In the beginning, you make habits. In the end, habits make you. It's simple, but it's big. So we had a combination. Our lifestyle changed. During this period, our lifestyle was getting up early in the morning, going up in them hills, running. A short run would be 5 miles. A regular run would be about 7 or 8 miles with heavy weights in your hands, of course. And plastic on, so when you finish running, you could lean forward and pull up your plastic, and you could spill out about a quart of water, a quart of sweat. That was that look. With all the things that was happening, that was a big release. Now you got to remember, we got the game on what's going to go on around our environment. So we was going to have, let's see what, life is a continuous evolutionary process. Da, 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 da. I'm not going to read about midgets and studded growth right now. But here's an outline for the week of 2/6/84. So we're going to deal with a lot of black churches. The Sunday before an event on 2/6/84, which is, I guess, February 6th, we'll be at San Francisco State, and Kwame Ture, Kwame Ture, what's his name? Stokely Carmichael is going to be there. He's going to be downstairs in the A&E building, and he would be at Wheeler Hall in Berkeley the next day at 7. Harry Edwards, anybody remember Dr. Harry Edwards? Dr. Harry Edwards. Probably seen him before. He's a big sports psychologist. He's Imam Jamil's friend. When I asked Imam Jamil, did he know Harry Edwards? He said, yeah, I knew him when his name was Puddin'. You know how niggas had, how many black people have names. So anyway, all the stuff we're going to do, Ron Karinga on the 17th will be at San Jose State. He had just got off the list of being a handkerchief-headed Negro. Ron Karinga. Anybody remember Ron Karinga?
Well, I primarily know him most for, he founded Kwanzaa or something.
Kwanzaa, yeah, he started Kwanzaa.
I later found out the other history, you know.
Yeah, Malana Ron Karinga.
What was his name? Yeah.
Ron Karinga. He used to call his name Maulana Ron Karinga. That means teacher, Ron Karinga. On the 12th, Julian Bond is going to be at the University of San Francisco. Somebody else is going to be at Merritt College. Okay, reputation. This is from January the 8th, 1983. Reputation, this is about the reputations that we had picked up about people. Arab mosque, Arab social clubs, what we call them. They were like sugar daddies, all day suckers. Okay. Islamic centers set purposely to check the spread of Islam. These Arab centers. The mosques were strategically located to check the spread of Islam near campuses, to stop the spread of Islam, because that's where most of the Muslims were in those days. They were on campus, so they were strategically located. This is what we had picked up by 83. Pakistanis, very racist, culturalized Islam, became American dream, reason for hijrah, to bow down to Caucasians and look down on blacks. Learn lessons from Africa. We've been in Africa by that time. Arab Asian stores, bad example of Islam. When I was young, all the stores in East and Oakland mostly was owned by Chinese. By 1980 and 84, 85, the Arabs from Yemen had bought up all the stores in Oakland. And of course they were Muslims. Some of them would come to our Masjid for Jummah. About this time, a few years later, one of the brothers came to Jummah, and he was crying during the Jummah. He said, Imam Musa, I'm going to sell my store. He had a store up there on 85th and East 14th at the time, and I'm going home. 2 weeks later, he came, he said, well, Imam Musa, it's been nice knowing you, da-da-da-da-da. I'm headed home, I done sold my store. All the other Arabs said, don't go to Masjid al-Islam. It was years before they came back, because we had an influence on this brother, and we helped improve his Islam. He said, we don't want none of that. They were very bad at, the people would ask, y'all with those old Arabs up the street? Now, imagine the Arab store owners in our neighborhood. They got a couple of Negro girlfriends that can come and get a few groceries, extra every now and then. Now, everybody know it. Their wives don't know it, but everybody else knows it. So imagine the example of Islam, and then all the people, we pushing Islam, we juiced up over Islam. And we telling the people, and the people is asking us, y'all with them old Arabs up the street? Those Arabs, So we had to discuss or deliver the Islamic message in a way that we let people know that whatever they have that Arabic writing over that wine they got and that pork in the store. And we tell the Negroes, oh, that's haram. If you go in any store and they got wine in there and they got pork in there, which they all have, you gotta imagine they selling, like, we was talking to one of the store owners, and the stuff that come up about wine, or we would walk in the store, and we'd see that they may not know us, and they see this smell out of Marine. You know what that is? I said, of course, yeah. Yeah, of course I know what that is. I'm a Muslim. And I also know that refrigerator you got full of that pork. And that wine, if we didn't sell wine, and if we didn't sell pork in this neighborhood, we wouldn't make no money, which was semi-true. Imagine a store in the black community that don't sell no, this is in 40 years ago, that don't sell no pork and no wine, no alcohol, no beer. You ain't gonna sell no beer and no wine. You're gonna be so broke, you ain't gonna know what to do. All right, so, Malaysians, very good crew. Boy, it was thousands of Malaysians here in America, and there's still quite a few. Prayer, love for Allah, non-political, but they were targeted of the Saudis because they were non-political, and the Saudis were political, and the Iranians were political. Iranians, well-intended, pushy. We have the solution. But they demonstrate a type of mizan, balance. The idea about blacks are strong, not very bright, rough around the edges, very little knowledge of Islam. That's just the way people talk. They, you know. I mean, they would be, I have here Al-Fatiha, and I have surprise. If you could recite Al-Fatiha, they would be shocked. You Muslim? Yes, I am. You know Al-Fatiha? Of course I know Al-Fatiha. Said 17 times a day minimum. Okay. Compare us colonial language, culture, history, deen, yet brainwashed. We talk about a colonial mentality and a slave mentality. A slave mentality is something that we grew up under here. Now you got to remember, this society hated everything we did, hated how we looked, hated all that stuff, but it taught us everything we knew. So suppose, what is he going to teach you? He's going to teach you slave perpetuating habits. In the beginning you make habits, in the end the habits make you. So you're going to have, your people are going to have slave perpetuating habits, not nation-building habits. Now, immigrants, they have a colonial mentality. You notice Dr.